Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Jessie, and welcome back to another episode of Rewired to Inspire. This show where we'll dive into self-love, learn tangible ways to rewire the brain, and discovering your soul's purpose. The goal of Rewired to Inspire is to encourage listeners to begin doing the hard work, to get curious and open to maximizing your life. Our mindset shapes how we live. Depending on life events, traumas, and personal experiences, our mindsets are all vastly different. However, one thing we all have in common is the ability to rewire our mind, to change the narrative, and to pivot our lives. I hope you leave each episode with the belief that you are so worthy to live a life true to you. I look forward to chatting with you every single Tuesday and Thursday and helping you grow exponentially in all areas of your life. Without further ado, here's today's episode. Hello, you guys, and welcome back to my podcast, Rewire to Inspire. I am your host, Jessie Brown, and I am super excited to be jumping on the microphone with you all for episode number 71 of Rewired to Inspire. I truly hope you guys are having the best day. I am recording today. It is the 1st of November, so happy November, although by the time you guys are listening to this, we are going to be in the second week of November. But nonetheless, I hope you guys are all enjoying your month, enjoying the season, getting cozy maybe. We haven't had snow where I am yet. I'm pretty excited about that. I have a love-hate relationship with snow because there is so many great, wonderful things that you can do in the winter, but I am a creature of always being cold. I literally have a heated blanket on my lap right now and a heating pad on my back because I just love and adore the heat. But nonetheless, super excited to be jumping on here with you all. Today's topic is one, and I say this every time, but if I didn't love it, I wouldn't talk about it. But it's one that I really get to witness firsthand a couple weeks ago. And so that made me feel even more pulled to come on here and share, because whenever I start to notice a repetition, or I start to notice a pattern, or I notice that I find myself doing the same thing over and over again, I don't know about you, but I get very curious. One of my core values is literally to be curious. I want to know the answer. I want to know why that happens that way. I want to know why I responded that way. I want to know why, just everything. I'm just constantly asking myself, why? And so for today's episode, we're going to be chatting about how anytime we go through change or growth, or we want to make a shift in our life, or we want to incorporate something in or take something out, basically anytime we want to change our habits, things that will typically happen. And there are tons of books out there, like Atomic Habits is one that I talk about a lot by James Clear. And I really kind of landed on a framework of the 3 things that I think happen when we undergo change or changing a habit. And so today's episode is going to be all about how change will test you. And the question is how long are you willing to ride the wave? And I'm going to be quoting the wave a lot. I'm going to be designing some actual visuals to go with today's episode. So if you're not following me on Instagram, I am at JessieBrown13. I'm going to be posting those on there because I really think sometimes if we can see a visual for human behavior of why we act the way we do, it just allows us to A, feel empowered that we're not alone, but B, see why our system might be failing, why we might keep trying something and feel like we keep starting over at square one, why we feel like we can't just get over the hump. And so that is my goal of today's episode, is to really just chat about how anytime we want to embark a big change in our life, that is going to cause a big ripple in how we show up. And that's often going to cause us to have severe discipline. And that's going to mean saying no to things. And that's going to mean if we actually want to accomplish said thing, we actually want to go all in on it. Because anytime we want to change a habit, change a lifestyle, change our life, that's going to take work and that's going to take effort. And every time we tell ourselves a story that it's just going to be easier, it's going to be effortless, like we got this. And yes, those are great mindsets to have, but anytime we really view a situation as being easier than it's going to be, we're really only setting ourselves up for failure. And that's why we need to tell ourselves, this is going to take a lot of grit, this is going to take a lot of work, a lot of consistency, a lot of momentum, but I know that if I do this, I'm going to thank myself. So without further ado, let's dive into number 71. So when we embark on a new journey, we typically have a lot of momentum, right? We say, like, New Year's is coming up in a couple months, and I bet you 9 out of 10 people are going to set new goals, and 7 out of 9 of those people will stop said goal come February. And why do I know this? I know this because statistically it's true, right? And so even just knowing that statistically we quit things after 3 months, and most of us sooner than that, that's what I get curious about. Why is that? Why is that? And so this also came up for me because myself, my partner, and his sister had an accountability group where we were doing 30 minutes of fitness a day. We were posting a picture of ourselves to show that we were showing up and to hold each other accountable, which is also a great tip. And his sister said in one of her messages 2 weeks into this, I feel myself losing momentum. I feel like I'm going to fail soon, or I'm going to quit soon. Like, I'm kind of over it at this point. And it just made me realize, like, we committed to 90 days, and after 14 days, you're ready to throw in the towel. And this is no disservice to my partner's sister, because we all do this. We do this in multiple areas of our life. I have fallen off and missed days since then as well. It's about moving forward and keeping the momentum versus being perfect. But I really got curious about that mindset piece, because if you've already told yourself after 2 weeks, I'm done, you're likely going to be done, because your mindset is the first thing that's going to determine if you are going to persevere or not. And the thing is your mind will try to give you 100 excuses to get out of something. I'm too tired today. I'll go tomorrow. I'll work out double tomorrow so I don't have to go today. We just come up with all these excuses, right? And so we're setting ourselves up for failure by doing that. And as I started to sit with this, I kind of came up with these 3 waves. So basically what happens is you start a journey, you get all this momentum. Think about climbing a mountain. You're going up, you're going up, you're going up. And then when we get the peak, which in this instance was 2 weeks in, you are at the steepest point of that mountain, because basically you've used all your momentum and all your energy to get you there. And often, because we don't see results in 2 weeks, we start to be like, oh, well, what's the point? I don't have a 6-pack yet, or I haven't lost that 20 pounds yet, so why would I keep going? Right? Because as I've mentioned before on my podcast, humans are creatures of wanting instant gratification. We want something and we want it now. Why do you think the 6-minute abs, and we see all these ads about be a millionaire in a year and all these things? Because it's marketing strategies to loop you in, because these people know that we like to gravitate towards things that are quick and easy fixes. And so if at that 2-week mark, you're not seeing a difference, your mind's going, well, why would I keep going? Even though theoretically, if you take a step back, you know that doesn't make sense. And we never really know when that peak will be. But that's what my first wave is. You're climbing up the mountain, you get to the top of it, you're at the steepest point, and you have a decision. You can turn right back around, and it's going to be super, super easy, because you're going right back to your old habits and your old way of living where you were miserable. Or you can keep going. And if you keep going and you're climbing a mountain, it'll go down a little bit, and then it'll go up a little bit. Easier days, harder days. Which brings me to my second wave, my second graph, and that would be you deciding to keep going. So instead of turning back around the mountain, you decide to keep going, and you're riding that wave. Yes, it sucks some days, Yes, I don't want to go some days. Some days are harder than others, but I'm still going. And maybe I miss sometimes and I fall off, but I'm still going and I'm still staying consistent. And then the third wave. The third wave is when you decide to keep going, and you do it long enough that it becomes a habit, right? It becomes ingrained in you. It becomes a part of your identity. It becomes a part of who you are. Because if we then begin to hold on to the identity that I am the type of person to work out, and this is just the example I'm using for today's analogy. This could be across the board with anything in your life that you're trying to incorporate. But if you tell yourself, I'm the type of person that is healthy, I am an athlete, I'm the type of person to work out, I'm the type of person that doesn't miss, your wave is then just going to basically have one big swoop. Basically an uphill trajectory, but in like a positive way. And again, I'm going to have some visuals of this, because I think that if I had this in the beginning, I would have been a little less hard on myself. for being consistent and a little harder on myself in the beginning of knowing once I get past that first initial wave, that is, I don't want to say the hardest one, because maintaining consistency and having discipline is never quote unquote easy, but it's when we can just prove our mind wrong, because that's really all it is. It's those conversations we have with ourselves. And when we can, if like the 75-day hard thing, that challenge that so many people do, I want to know statistically, honestly, I want to Google this. If I can find an answer, how many people have tried and actually completed it? It seems rationally easy if you think about it. 75 days straight, 2 workouts a day, 1 inside, 1 outside, reading a little bit of a book, drinking X amount of water, no cheat meals, no alcohol, and there might be something else, but I think that's all I remember. Oh, and taking a progress pic. It seems statistically easy to do that, but I encourage you to try it. It's actually very hard and very challenging. And the reason is because we often go into these challenges and into these habits and into these goals, into these things for all the wrong reasons. And when we go into it with the wrong reasons, that identity piece is not there, because we're doing it likely to look a certain way based on something we see online. We want to impress someone. We want to follow our friends. We want to follow trends, right? We want to be a part of what everybody else is doing. So we do what everybody else is doing. And then we feel like crap when we don't succeed, but we didn't succeed because A, it wasn't something you wanted to do in the first place, and you didn't have a plan to support you and set you up when you got to the top of that mountain. How are you going to survive if you have nothing to prepare? If you have no tools in your toolbox to help you along that journey? And so the reason I wanted to share this episode is because I know what it's like to ride that wave in all areas of life. This has been me recently with reading. I'm at the point now where I literally challenge myself to read 1 paragraph of a book a day. And you might be thinking, a paragraph of a book, like that seems so silly. But a paragraph a day over time will eventually equip and equal to reading a book. But if I just did nothing, that's 1 less paragraph a day that I'm reading and that I'm getting the knowledge of. And so habits are really about how can we just do small things to maintain momentum, to maintain consistency? Because even the days I don't feel like going to the gym, I still make sure I move my body. Going for a walk, doing a yoga flow, lifting some weights at home, doing some gardening. So I'm still having the mindset, and I always make sure I get change into workout clothes, to go do the action. So my mind begins to build the habit of, okay, every day I am the type of person to move and exercise my body. And so basically what I've learned about growth and consistency and momentum is that you need a plan and a way to track and a way to have a bird's eye view of where you're at on your wave and on your journey. And the wave is basically my way of explaining the hard crash that we all feel come like February when we feel like crap. Because we go, and we have all this momentum and adrenaline and excitement and eagerness to dive in. And then we burn out and we quit. And then we typically wait a year and then we do it again. And then we fail. And then we try again. And then we fail. And we try again and we fail. And every time that we do that, our self-worth takes a hit. Because every time we make a promise to ourselves we're going to do something we don't follow through, our mind remembers that. Imagine you had a friend that just kept making a promise to you and kept breaking it. But we do that to ourselves every single day, especially with our goals. We tell ourselves we're going to do the things and then we just don't do them. There's honestly no point of telling yourself a goal if you don't actually have the intention to follow through with it. If you want to set a goal and you want to master something, you have to know that that comes with a price. And that's something that's not talked about, right? This is something that wasn't even on my radar a year ago. But I kept noticing every time that I said I was going to do something and I didn't do it, I'd feel a little more depressed the next day. I'd feel a little more helpless the next day. I'd have lower confidence the next day. Why is that? Because I was letting myself down over and over and over again. Ask yourself, will I regret doing this or will I regret not doing this? Will me in a year from now thank me for this decision, or will a year from me now wish that I had started? As much as I am an advocate for being in the present, we always have to have our future mind and our future self at stake. I always say, I have my future self in the back of my mind and my present self in the front of my mind, meaning my thinking brain. So the back of my mind, I'm always thinking about my future self and what she's going to want. And my logic brain in the present moment is like, okay, we need to do this now in order to get to that. And I'm not going to say I'm perfect, because lately I've been struggling big time. And I've just been showing up in ways that I can and that I have the capacity to, so that I don't miss. Even my podcast, I'm now, I think, over 50 or 60 episodes in a row without missing. And now I'm up to 2 episodes a week. If I were to break that streak, I would be so upset, like so upset with myself if I broke that streak, to the point that I won't miss it. And what if you can get like that with your goals? What if you get so good at mastering it over time that it feels worse to not show up than to show up? That is really the game we're playing for, that long-term game of remembering why you started. And I was looking at my statistics yesterday of my podcast, and in all of October last year, I had 1 download on my podcast. In one of the longest months of the year, 31 days. I mean, multiple months have that, but you see what I'm saying. 1 download. You know how easy I could have quit and said, no one cares? Do not let short-term results or not results, like that gap, hold you back. Because that is when the compound effect will flip, is through consistency and through momentum. But we're so good at quitting early before it gets good. And then when it gets good, we stop because we think we got to where we want to go. You know, like my goal right now is to hit 100 podcast episodes, and then it'll be 200. I just keep moving the goalpost further. But I keep getting closer to it, and then I push it away, and then I get closer to it, and then I push it away. Because we do have to give ourselves some kind of standpoint and reward that we're working towards. But it can never be enough. Working out every single day is going to be my goal until the day I die. Will I miss? Absolutely. But am I trying my dang hardest to make sure I don't miss? Absolutely. And that's really what this whole episode is about, is what is your relationship with that uncomfortability of discipline, that uncomfortability of change, that uncomfortability of showing up for yourself? We can make up all the excuses in the world, but if you keep thinking about that version of yourself that you want in your mind, because we all have that version of ourselves, right? Someone with more money, someone that's skinnier, someone that has a house, someone that has this or that. We all have like those things. My question is, what are you doing to get closer to that? But also, what are you doing that's pulling you away from that? Because every decision that we make is a cast of the type of person we want to become. And that also includes when nobody's watching. What kind of person are you when nobody's around to hold you accountable? Because nobody's knocking at my door telling me to record this podcast. I'm doing it because A, I love doing it, but B, I refuse to miss. Use that power. You be at battle with yourself. All those challenges and stuff are great because yes, accountability is great and honestly one of the best things that we can do to hold ourselves accountable. But you have to do it for you first. You have to have a why. You have to have a reason. You have to have that push that's going to strive you on the days that you do not want to show up, because we all have those days, and it is on those days that we need to show up, especially. So my friend, you listening, how is this resonating? How do you feel about this topic? Do you feel like you're the type of person that always follows through with the things you say you're going to do? Or do you feel like you really only hold yourself accountable when it means you're doing something for everybody else? Because one of the best ways that we can raise our vibe and raise our sense of self-worth is through making promises to ourselves, being disciplined, and executing through. That is one of the best ways that we can raise our sense of self-worth. And our sense of self-worth trickles into everything. It trickles into our confidence. It trickles into who we surround ourselves with. It trickles into, the foods that we're eating, the environments in which we surround ourselves with, our general vibe as people. And I've realized that it really is just that simple. Because if we had high levels of self-worth, a lot of our lives would look a lot different, wouldn't they? Because a lot of the poor decisions that I know I've made in my life, I know I made because I was at times that I had no sense of self-worth. I didn't care. I didn't care what happened to me. I didn't care what I ate. I didn't care who I was around. I didn't care because I didn't have enough self-worth. And now that I do, I've noticed that all those things are now eliminated from my life, which is super, super interesting. So before we close for today, I just wanted to give you guys a couple tangible things that you can do to support you with this, because I know it can be a really hard thing to do. Keeping promises we make to ourselves is really challenging. And before I get into these, just know that the goal is never to be perfect. The goal is to better your best, get 1% better, and to keep the momentum going. Do not let the momentum stop, even though that might look different days. Do not let the train stop. It keeps going indefinitely, because when it stops, that's when we never know how long it's going to stay parked, right? And so the first thing that you guys can do is to set an intention. What are the things you desire? And then go even deeper. Why? Why do you desire these? Because if it doesn't start with you first, you're not doing it for the right reasons. Start small, a small intention, and don't focus so macro. Focus on one micro thing that you want to focus on. Set a small intention, and then try to show up doing said thing for 1 to 5 minutes a day. We come hot out of the guns like, I'm working out for an hour every day this year. No, you're not. And if you do, wow. Because that takes a tremendous amount of time, discipline, resourcefulness, eagerness, consistency, identity, everything. But just as an example, if you can even show up, this is from Atomic Habits, for 1 minute and then build that up, that's going to create the habit, that is going to create your identity, that is going to set you up for success. Off of that, showing up every day for an X amount of days. Maybe it's the 75 days. Maybe it's the 90 days. Maybe it's a month. But give yourself a time that you want to work towards. And then when you get to that, again, that goalpost is forever moving. So when you get to that 75 days or you get to that 90 days, then what? Because now the momentum's already going. So you better keep going because you're crushing it. So keep going. The third thing that I have found extremely helpful is to track daily. Track it. Did I do it or did I not do it? Just that initial check of doing something literally gives you a dopamine and a serotonin hit, because your brain's like, oh yeah, we accomplished something. This is freaking awesome. So by tracking, A, you're seeing how much you're actually showing up, but B, you're holding yourself accountable, and C, when you do show up and you get to celebrate that, it encourages you and entices you to show up again tomorrow. And in retrospect, in reverse, if you're not showing up for day, you're like, okay, something's going to change. I haven't been showing up. No wonder I'm feeling crummy. Let's get at it. So tracking. Accountability, like I mentioned, accountability can be one of the best tools we can use to hold ourselves accountable. Pick a friend, pick a family member, whatever. Hold each other accountable. Encourage each other, push each other, especially when it gets hard. Think of if you ever played on a sports team. You want to run just as long as everybody else, right? Because you don't want to be the first one to finish. It's the same thing. That's what accountability does. It betters your best, because now not only are you at a competition with yourself, but you're kind of at a competition with everybody else. And that encourages you and entices you to go that extra mile. So find some accountability. Ask yourself those hard questions. that I had mentioned. Why am I doing this? How am I going to feel in a year from now? How is future me going to thank me for this? Validate that it won't be easy. Saying that it's going to be easy, again, is only dismissing what you're doing, because if it was easy, don't you think you already would have done it? And this would kind of all be irrelevant. So validate, this is going to be a journey. This is going to be challenging. But I can do challenging things. I can do hard things. And believe it. As you keep showing up and proving that to yourself, you will start to believe it. And then my final thing is to just check in with yourself. Ask yourself how you're feeling. Ask yourself, tell yourself you're proud of you for showing up. You're proud of yourself for even going to the gym for 5 minutes, because it's better than not going at all. You're proud of yourself for showing up even though you didn't want to. Checking in with yourself and being gentle with yourself. Being gentle with ourselves with a subtle push. Because we can be gentle on ourselves and let ourselves off the hook and be miserable, or we can be gentle with ourselves and also have discipline that's going to make us the best version of ourselves while also being gentle with ourselves. So it's really that balance. I get why we say, be gentle with yourself, but also be uncomfortable. Get outside your comfort zone. Feel pain, feel discipline, feel the uncomfortability of doing hard things, because through doing hard things and challenging things, oh my gosh, friend, you will grow. I promise you that. I promise you that. But you have to prove it to yourself and feel it for yourself. So thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode. Today was one that really just poured from my heart and my soul. I had very little notes set up for today because I just wanted to pour from my own experiences and my personal just thoughts on this, because I know what it's like to really challenge to hold yourself accountable. I deal with it every single day. I'm probably going to deal with it every single day, but it's just about becoming a little bit better. And when we can even have the awareness that it's happening, it just helps us really make sense of maybe why you've been in a constant infinity cycle. And I truly hope that this just allows you and gives you permission to zoom out a little bit and maybe attack your next goal with a new perspective. So thank you guys so much as always. I look forward to chatting with you guys on Thursday. Bye, you guys. Thank you all so much for tuning into today's episode of Rewire to Inspire. I absolutely love connecting with you all, so make sure you're following me on Instagram. I am at JessieBrown13. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to leave a review or share with someone you think would enjoy. I look forward to chatting with you all next episode. And remember, get out of your head and into your heart.